Hi, everybody. Raina here from Blue Cypress Books. I want to welcome you to another episode of Book Banter. This evening, I will be talking with TQ Sims. Their book, Godspeed Lovers, has been out for a little bit, but I just had an opportunity to read it. So I'm kind of in love with it. Like, I like sci-fi and I like fantasy and I like twists when you read that. So this book definitely has a lot of that. I am going to be talking to them this evening, and if you have any questions, you can type them in the comments below, and we will answer them during the event. So without further ado, I am going to welcome TQ on to Book Banter. Hi!
Hi.
Hey, how are you this evening?
I'm a little bit better now that you read my book. That makes me so happy.
Well, I love when, new books. Sometimes I have people join me on Book Banter to push me to finish something I've wanted to do for a while. So when you first brought your book in, I was like, sci-fi, queer, love story, tell me more. Okay. And so I started reading it a little bit and I was like, okay, and I got things going on in my life and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to ask TQ to join me for Book Banter, and that's going to be like, all right, Raina, here we go.
It works for me.
Like, whatever it takes. I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the questions I usually ask people is to give me the give us the elevator pitch. What is Godspeed Lovers?
I actually struggle with the elevator pitch, but I'll do my best. So, Godspeed Lovers is a queer science fiction fantasy romance where there are two men falling in love while using their psychic powers to fight sentient storms and resist corporate manipulation.
Here's what I love. You can't even keep a straight face.
I can't. It's such a wild story, but it all works, and it felt really wonderful to write it. It felt like therapeutic in a way, and to be able to put it out there and have readers connect with it just makes my heart glow.
Well, that's one of the things that it is when you do the elevator pitch, this is like almost exactly what you said when you came into the bookstore. So it was perfect. You've got this down. You're like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's a lot. That's a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it does totally work. And like, you do this great job building the world and weaving those bits together. So it's like, okay, I'm sold. Like, I get how all of
Right
this
on.
is together. I'm in. So like, when did you write this? Did you always like want to write, or like?
Oh wow.
Sorry, let's go.
Yes.
That's two different questions. Did you always want to be a writer?
I always wanted to be an artist, and growing up, I was really interested in not only storytelling through words, but through visuals. I love to draw and to create collage, and I still do that a little bit every now and then. But I think I fell in love with writing specifically when I was about 9 years old. Uh, we had this class assignment in fifth grade to write a story. And the story that I wrote was, 3 times longer than the stories my peers wrote. And it really, I don't know, it stood out. It was called The Christmas That Almost Wasn't. And it was about Jack Frost kind of stealing Christmas, and then Santa had to go save it, which, it's not high concept or anything, but it was fun. And I remember when our teacher like photocopied all the stories and packaged them, I was like, oh wow, I'm a published writer now, and I'm sure maybe like only our parents read it. I wish I knew where I could find that little packet, because I would love to read that story. I'm sure it's delightfully cringeworthy.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. I'm sure. You know what? It just needs a little editing. It needs a little like fleshing out. I'm sure it's
Yeah. Maybe I should bring the concept back and work on it as something new.
I mean, Christmas albums sell. Christmas short stories sell? I mean,
Hey, Mariah Carey is
right?
like, you know, it is Mariah Carey because of the holiday album. So
Exactly. Also,
yeah,
I don't think you should sell yourself short. You said you were in 5th grade, so it's not. It is kind of an interesting concept. I mean, you're not just accepting the world for Santa and the way that it is, right? You're like, what
yeah,
if?
yeah, yeah,
Let's mix it up a little bit. I like that. I like it.
yeah. Right on, right on. I should totally revisit this concept and flesh it out. Uh, but yeah, I think I always wanted to be a author, or excuse me, I always wanted to be an artist in some way. And I've published poetry, I've published short stories, I've shown visual artwork. But now what I'm into is novels. So and this book started in the pandemic during lockdown. I had been craving getting back into some sort of artistic output. For years, I had been putting a lot of my creative energy into teaching yoga classes. And I just really wanted to make some sort of, not that that's not art, but I wanted to make some sort of like more traditional art. And I was trying to create visual art, trying to draw more, trying to create more collage. And I just wasn't really connecting with the process in the way that I needed to, probably because there was a pandemic, probably
Right?
because we were in lockdown. And then I had this idea for a story, and I sat down and started writing. The next day I came back and I wrote a bit more. And, you know, 2 months later, my partner was like, are you going to show me what you're working on? Because like, it seems like you're making something big here. And, you know, 4 months later, I had a very messy, rough
Mm-hmm.
first draft. And then for a couple years after that, I refined it before finally self-publishing.
Do like had you tried to sit down and write something longer before, and then this is just like the one that stuck with you, like you kept going back to the same story every morning, you know, when you go back and sit? Or
Yeah, during that time, there were a couple of other stories that I tried to get into, but they didn't seem like they were going to be as much of a time commitment or as therapeutic as I needed for that era. But even before that, I used to write novels in high school secretly. Uh,
wow, where is this desk drawer full of
I
all the
I
great?
I hope it's gone. I hope it's gone from the world. I hope no one finds it. I can't imagine that they are good, but I definitely did develop skills in telling a story in long form, just from being like a fan of Stephen King and Dean Koontz and Anne Rice, and just seeing what they were doing and like thinking like, oh well, I could do this, you know, like I'm 16, but surely I can write a novel, and
Hey.
you know,
Well, what's great about it is like you were reading those and you were thinking, I could do this, but then you just like did. Like
yeah,
plenty of people are like, I could write a novel, but very few people actually sit down in front of, you know, the notepad or the laptop or whatever it is and start putting it down, you know, and then sticking with it to say like, oh, I had a few ideas. Like I had a few ideas. Okay. But I never wrote a novel in high school. So
yeah.
that's a
I
totally
mean,
different thing. I love it.
yeah. So, you know, that work sat on the top shelf of my closet for the longest time, and you know, I just kind of left it there, never showed anyone, and I'm sure it's like, you know, in it's probably in a like a trash dump somewhere, you know, a landfill somewhere.
It is
So
already going back to the earth.
it's already going back into the earth and becoming something new.
Were those sci-fi? Did you always want to write like science fiction or?
Yeah, yeah. There's one that kind of like stands out to me lately because in the story, these teenagers had superpowers, just like in
Yeah.
Godspeed Lovers. There are people who sort of attain these superpowers in order to deal with the supernormal events that they find themselves in.
Yeah. I really love how the superpowers are part of the anguish of each character, but like also the thing that like helps them save the world, you know,
Yeah.
helps them like figure it's what they contribute to the world, but also what personally like kind of eats at them. And
Yeah. I just, as far as that element is concerned, I just would imagine myself like having these powers, and I'm like, I'm so clumsy, and like my mind is not as clear as I would like it to be. So I can only imagine like what it would be like if I had some sort of like extraordinary power, and how that could like misfire at times.
yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like most people would this would not go well. if we all just woke up with like a random superpower at some one day, like things would take a turn pretty quickly.
What would your superpower be if you could have one?
That's solid. I feel like I would pick transport, like teleportation.
Oh, yeah.
Like
long distance, like
do
when
I
you need a vacation, you're just like Paris, or
yeah, I mean like
in
that.
the mountains.
I feel like both. I feel like my life would be a lot better if I could just get across town to the Walmart and back. Like if I could cut out all commute time. So yes, on a daily basis that. But then also, yeah, I have 3 days off in a row, but I can't go on a vacation because it's like not enough time. But yeah, so all of the above. All of the above.
Gotcha. I love that. I love that superpower.
And it could be used for evil, but like I feel like most days it'd just be used for going to the bank.
Just like avoiding all the potholes in New Orleans.
I don't need any of that. What would yours be?
I really don't know. Like, and I've thought about it so much because I've got this book, and I don't know. I think I dream a lot about flying, which is like sometimes really cool, but then other times I'm like, I don't know how to land. And I feel like that would be like one of the challenges of having that superpower. I mean, it would be really fun to just take off, like I'm not into this situation I'm in, and just like just fly away. But learning to land would maybe be too challenging for me.
So you'd use it like to escape? Because
I think so.
you're like, I've had enough of this conversation.
Yeah. Or just like recreationally, I'm just gonna like take some sky time for a little bit.
I like that though. That's also a better commute. Let's be
real. Absolutely.
If you can master that taking off and landing situation, then it's way better most of the time.
No potholes in the sky.
No potholes. Yeah, I love it. All right, so I'm glad we learned that about each other, because if there's a Venn diagram, there is an overlap of our.
I feel like that's true. Yes, I love a good Venn diagram.
And I believe in you learning to land.
Thank you. And I believe you would use your teleportation power for just maybe like a little bit of evil, but then like mostly for good. Just the appropriate amount,
evil fun diagram. See, like, but it wasn't really hurting anyone, but it was a lot of fun.
Just, there you go.
That gray area. That's good. So this is Lovers Trilogy Book 1. So are you writing more books?
I am. I'm currently working on book 2, and I have a lot of notes for book 3. But book 2 is going really well. I'm still on the first draft, but I am a little bit into what feels like the last act, unless I come up with some super twisty element. But I'm on track to be finished with the first draft in probably a couple of months. I don't know. I'll be delayed because of Mardi Gras for a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'll probably have it finished by end of February, middle of March.
So what do you use to organize? Like, do you just write it out, or do you outline? Do you post-it notes? What do you do? That was me post-it notes on the wall, by the way.
I have a very chaotic notes app. So like each work has like just like tons of notes, and I will go in there every now and then and arrange them on a timeline. And sometimes things are a good idea, but they're not really going to serve the story, the character, or the plot, and they've got to come out. And I don't really work with an outline, but I kind of know in my head, like, this is the end of the first act, and this is how Act 2 is going to begin. So I've kind of got these points on a timeline, and I know I'm going to hit all those points. But in between, that's just like what I fill in when I'm writing,
Can you hear the band and the car horns?
I can hear the car horn.
Okay. Well, I tried to mute my mic when the band was like right next to my house. So
oh, I hear it now.
Yeah. I live next to a school, so sometimes the band is practicing. You never know when. Some Thursdays, no practice. Other Thursdays, practice right now. It's great.
Yeah, a lot during this time of year, I would imagine.
Yes. There's like no practice, and then the winter break happens, and when they come back, it's just chaos practice. I have no idea when they'll be going by. So there's no way to plan around that.
It's not super loud, so I have to like really listen for it and like tune in carnival season, and like it's not super distracting.
No, I'm sure it's very quiet where you are.
It is. There's like snow on the ground outside. So
that's crazy. But you'll be back for Mardi Gras, right? Like you'll be
Yes,
here.
I'll be back. I'll be back.
I was like, I don't know. I don't peg you as one of those people who leaves the city for Mardi Gras. I could be wrong.
I mean, I have before, but honestly, Mardi Gras is always hit or miss for me. Like I'm either super into it or I'm like, oh, I gotta get out of town. But this year, I want to be there. There are things I want to do. There are costumes to create. There's revelry to be had. So, yeah.
I am horrible at planning costumes. Like I'm always going to, and then it's like lundi gras, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
What do I have in this drawer over here? Like, and as I'm coming back to my house, I'm on Mardi Gras Day, right? You get back to your house, you're like, oh God, you're just like taking off bits and who's going to take a shower first and all that stuff. In my mind, I'm like, next year. Next year's the year. I have ideas, This is just like me writing the novel in high school. I have ideas. Great. And plenty of time,
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
It's quite a time commitment when you plan like something extravagant. But one thing that I love about New Orleanians is like we don't really need a lot of time to plan the costume. We've got the costume closet or the trunk. We just need to get in there, give us a few hours. We will wow you,
Yeah, I got a hot glue gun, some tools, and some sequins. We're good to go.
Exactly.
I just 1 year. I want to plan more than 24 hours in advance. That's my life goal. It's gonna be great. That year, I'm gonna tell everyone. Everyone will know. Look at this. I worked a whole week on this one.
Yeah, that's usually my Halloween costume, but not my Mardi Gras. Like I tend to like Halloween a little bit more. I think that's like my favorite New Orleans holiday. Second would be Gay Easter, and then Mardi Gras, which I have no idea why those balloons just
I don't know why that happens either. The other day, I was in a meeting. I used this program to have a meeting, and I was counting on my fingers, and balloons took off. And I tried to repeat it, and I couldn't get it to happen. So happy gay Easter, Mardi Gras, Halloween to you. Yay.
Yeah, wonderful. More balloons. Like,
I'm sorry about
maybe.
that.
No, it's great. So yeah, I tend to plan my Halloween look far in advance. You know.
I feel like, and this could be just me, I feel a lot of pressure with Mardi Gras costumes. Halloween,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, and there's no, it doesn't have to be satire. It doesn't have to be in a color scheme. It doesn't have to be. And I feel like with Mardi Gras, you either are like in this color scheme or like, what are you?
Yeah.
You know?
So I think it's the opposite for me because Mardi Gras, I'm like, I can just like dip into the costume closet, like I'll come out, it'll look amazing. But for Halloween, like I usually go to a friend's Halloween party and she has a theme every year. So I'm like, I'm overthinking it. I'm like planning ahead, I'm trying to wow people. So I feel, but like I kind of thrive with that happening. At the pressure kind of like encourages me to like, really turn out a great look. So yeah, with
Well,
Mardi Gras, it's like
like reading
whatever.
the book, like finally finishing the book. I'm like, you know what? I just need a deadline. Is what I need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, let's do that. So I make my own deadline. So yes, I get that for sure.
Right on.
Okay, band. Now the band is back.
It's kind of wonderful. It's like I'm there in New Orleans.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It's New
I'm
Orleans.
not in Woodstock, New York. I'm in New Orleans.
That's perfect. So, what books do you read? Like, if you write sci-fi or you're drawn to writing sci-fi, what kind of books do you like enjoy just reading?
I do enjoy sci-fi and fantasy. I think when people ask me this question, they're often surprised that I read a lot of nonfiction and I read a lot of poetry. Usually, I'll read nonfiction in the mornings. Afternoons are, sci-fi fantasy, and before bed, poetry. So
Okay, I love that you have like an like a plan for your reading day. I was not prepared.
like, how Capricorn can I be? Like, let me just schedule when I'm going to be reading. But I find that like when I do that, I actually enjoy reading more and I actually make time for writing. So yeah,
I get
that's why
that
I have a schedule.
in the morning is when that's when it's business time, so to me, like I'm like I get up, I get my coffee, I get ready. That's when I like knock out emails and stuff like that usually. So nonfiction, that's when you'd be learning and stuff. And poetry for bed I'm into.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it just the abstraction and the rhythm and the flow, it kind of helps shut my mind off, which fiction doesn't always do because I will often be inspired by what the writer has put on the page. And I'm like furious in my notes app, creating more chaos. But poetry kind of helps me shut my mind up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't have it worked out quite as rigidly as you do, but it definitely depends.
I don't think most people do.
Fiction before bed for sure. Totally agree. Fiction. I mean, I don't want any nonfiction. And it depends on the book. Like some books, I just sort of fall into this story and I'm not analyzing and I'm just genuinely just enjoying the ride of this story. That is great for bed. But if it's a book that needs extra, like like a book club or like that, I'm not reading this before bed because I'm doing this. I'm talking to you, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm making some notes and stuff like that. But some books, yeah, you got to be paying attention. You got to just be like, and I'm like, no. That's when I read like more of my fluffy stuff.
Okay.
A beach read, if you will.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like something
So,
like
like,
that. Don't have to.
do you read like romance or like what's your before sleep kind of book?
Okay, so it just so happens that my current Well, the one I just finished was keep this off the record. Keep this off the record. Okay, now it's romance. Hold on, I'm gonna scoot back.
Yeah, please.
Grab. This is what I'm about to start this evening. So that is, yes, a Harlequin romance. It just so happens that, yes, that is not a rule.
Okay.
But right now, that is what I'm reading. Darby's going to be here on February 18th, and this is her 4th book. And so I read the first 3. Again, the first one I read was just because she contacted us and she was like, hey, I'd like to have an event. And I'm like, cool. Like, I read the book and I was just like page. So
yeah,
now I'm 4 deep into those. So yes, I mean, not always romance, but something like that. Something where you don't have to really, you're just going to enjoy the story. That's good bedtime reading for me.
Love that.
Some nights it's 1 page and I'm out, and other nights it's like 5 chapters and I'm out. Like, you never know.
Yeah.
Well, Linda has a question. Where do you get your inspiration?
So I tend to write queer characters into supernormal situations, and I like when there is some sort of emotional, mental change in them that leads to growth. So I do get inspiration from my own life, my own process of post-traumatic growth. And I kind of add these supernatural elements to that. So yeah, I feel like working in this genre, inspiration is almost everywhere. I talk to my writer friends about this a lot. It's almost like the opposite of writer's block. It's just like a flood of inspiration, like so much that I have to like pick and choose like which projects I'm going to work on. I mean, there are so many projects languishing in that notes app. So, but that's a really good question. That's a question that I often ask writers: is where do they get their inspiration from? What stories have inspired them? And for me, it's my own life, but also the lives of other queer people that I know or I've read about in some way.
Science fiction is, and it has been, maybe forever, but a long time for sure, a vehicle for being able to tell a story that people might not be as receptive to if it were just like contemporary fiction, like if it were
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you can, if you're reading it and paying any attention at all, you're like, okay, I know what you're saying. Like, but if not, people are just like, oh, look, it's an alien planet. And these people just happen to like, what, and I'm like,
yeah, but then like if you look at that, like maybe it's a story about colonization or being the stranger, or there's so many so much that happens within science fiction. Going back to Godspeed Lovers, I feel like one of the themes in the book is how we hold so much power, and each and every one of us does have a lot of power. We don't always realize it, but we do have a lot of power to affect each other. And what does that mean to hold that? Whether or not it's teleportation or flying or reading someone's mind, like in the book, what does it mean to be a powerful person and to still have all the things that we have as humans, being being as complex as we are.
Yeah, it's just being one part of the whole person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why I like sci-fi so much. It's just there's so much room to play with metaphors.
So, okay, have you ever when you're writing, do those things just naturally come together, Or have you ever sat down and go, okay, I want to say this, so how do I work that in?
Both. Yeah. I feel like when I was writing this book, there were things that I wanted to say about post-traumatic growth. So then I had to say things about trauma, and I wanted to say things about love and how that can be healing. I wanted to say things about how sex can be healing. And in doing that, I found room to say things about what it means to hold power, uh, whether or not it's a person with superpowers, or like in the book, there's this corporation which has a lot of power through money and privilege. Yeah, so I do sometimes have an idea of what I want to say, and then other times things will come up within that process.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in your book too, with these different like types of power that you're mentioning, sometimes it gets lost. I mean, I sit here, and if you think of a major corporation and you're just like, there's nothing I could do. There's no power that I have, and then you realize, okay, we all have some type of power in some way. What do we do with it? Every single day I make decisions. That is a form of power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all have the power to like help create happiness and freedom in other people's lives. So, but we also have to focus on that in our own lives. So,
right.
Yeah.
And when you write a book, you accentuate like these pieces, right? And science fiction allows you to do that in much bigger ways sometimes. But I love how you can take these ideas and these themes that you've put in your book, and then you just can make them like, how did this fit my life? Like, because it does so much of it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's sci-fi, it's fantasy. It's like there is meaning and depth there, but also you can just read it as a fun story. You can go as deep as you want to go with it.
Right. Exactly. Well, everybody, I'm going to put, oh, my computer's not going to do that. Okay. I'm going to put a link in the comments. This will take you to more information about TQ's book. Now, it's not available to order through our website, so you can't like put it in the cart, but that will give you all the information you need to email us or call us or stop by and get one. We have copies. We have signed copies. It's so fancy. It's so fancy. So we have these. We will have them all the time because TQ is here, and he will make sure that we have a steady stream of them.
Yes.
We also just save the date, because we are doing something. It's April 30th.
30th. Yes, I'm very excited.
I didn't have it right in front of me, so I was like, oh no.
Yes, that's the correct date.
Yeah, so save the date. There will be more details coming soon. It'll be up on our website. We'll send out press releases. It'll be good. That will be in person at the bookstore. So
yeah,
Mark, pencil that in on your calendar right now, and we'll be ready for that. TQ, thank you so much for joining me for Book Banter.
Yeah, this has been fun. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you all for watching. I see you out there. Thank you for commenting. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, y'all.